You're listening to the Spark Radio Network, internet radio like you've never heard before. Innovation, creativity, and imagination are all said to begin with a spark. So fasten your seatbelt and take the ride of your life and listen for the spark.
You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
Most writers and radio show hosts know that to connect with your fans, you need to do more than just write books or record the latest podcasts. There are many different elements that go into forming an online platform, but there are also many hidden traps. To make matters worse, solid advice on how to survive the muddy waters is scarce. In the book Hidden Traps, I talk about some of the important issues of working with an online platform, highlighting traps that could put your physical or internet security at risk or be harmful to your reputation. Are your social media posts just links with a few disjointed words, making you look like someone who can't complete a sentence? Did your new website cost you more than you anticipated? Are you leaking your personal contact details across the web without even knowing it? Then you need Hidden Traps. Hidden Traps is now available in paperback and ebook from a variety of retailers, including Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and Kobo. Visit blackwolfpublications.com for more details.
If you're 85 or younger, would you like peace of mind and comfort for your family? We're Final Expense Direct with an urgent message for you. The average funeral today costs over $8,000, but the most you'll get from government benefits is $255. How will your family pay the difference? We can help. Our senior plans start as low as just $1 a day and pay up to $30,000 for a funeral and other final expenses. Peace of mind is easy. There's no medical exam. You'll have lifetime coverage, and your plan can't be canceled as long as you pay your premiums. Call now for free information about our senior plans. Answer a few simple questions and receive approval right on the phone. Plus, call right now and we'll give you a discount prescription card for free. Call 800-553-8687. That's 800-553-8687. Again, 800-553-8687. 687.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
Everyone loves liberty. Our rights come from God, not the government. So why are you letting other people tell you what's best for your healthcare? Exercise your freedom with Liberty Health Share. Liberty Health Share is a community of people who voluntarily share one another's medical costs. Liberty Health Share is founded on the idea that most people truly want to help one another. Healthcare sharing allows members to do just that as a true community that supports one another in times of need. Liberty believes people should make decisions for themselves and their families. Members are able to take back the freedom to make their own decisions about their healthcare. Freedom from guilt or doubt about how your money is used. You have the freedom to direct your healthcare, not to be dictated to by bureaucrats. Stop letting others tell you what to do and join a community of like-minded people. Exercise your freedom. Join Liberty Health Share and take back the control of your healthcare while helping those around you. Call Liberty at 855-58-LIBERTY. Again, that's 855-58-LIBERTY for more information, or you can check them out at libertyhealthshare.org. Again, that's libertyhealthshare.org.
Here's George Foreman with InventHelp.
Hi, I'm George Foreman. Do you have an idea for a new product or invention? People ask me all the time, George, how do I get my idea in front of companies? How do I get a patent? What do I do next? Do you have the same questions? I'll tell you like I'll tell them all. Call my friends at InventHelp.
Call InventHelp today for free information. InventHelp has been helping inventors for more than 30 years and has sales offices nationwide. InventHelp can submit your invention to companies who are interested in receiving new ideas. If you have an idea and want to try to patent it and submit it to companies, you should call InventHelp today for free information.
Listen, I can't guarantee a company will be interested in your idea, but I believe every inventor deserves the opportunity to step into the ring and take their best shot. Put InventHelp in your corner.
To get your free inventor's information, call 1-800-353-6490. That's 1-800-353-6490. Again, 1-800-353-6490.
At St. Jude, a family never sees a bill at all. It's like the world has been lifted off of your shoulders.
St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. Finding cures, saving children. Learn more at stjude.org.
Sometimes writers feel lost, unsure why a passage may not be working. It takes another set of eyes to help us nurture our writing into full maturity. At Black Wolf Editorial Services, we strive to enable writers to develop and grow, offering manuscript critiques and line edits through a mentoring editorial style. We also offer assistance on generating a writer's bio for your websites. Black Wolf Editorial Services, nurturing your writing into maturity. For a full list of services, visit blackwolfeditorial.com.
And so, my fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country.
Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We didn't pass it on to our children in the bloodstream. The only way they can inherit the freedom we have known is if we fight for it, protect it, defend it, and then hand it to them with the well-taught lessons of how they in their lifetime must do the same.
All right, folks, I almost said happy Tuesday. Happy Thursday evening. God, please don't let us go back to Tuesday. This is Rick Robinson. I'm one half of the crew of the Jen and Rick Show, and we are coming to you live right now from KLRNradio.com. The other half of the crew, of course, is Miss Jen Homestead, but there's something I gotta say first. Everything is awful. Sorry, it's part of the title, so I had to do it. And of course, it only applies if you're a leftist, because now everything is awful, everything is racist, America sucks, they want to tear it down, and they can all kiss my, yeah, you know what I was going to say next.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh, it is like, it's just one thing after another. You know, they really have been capitalizing on the whole Charlottesville situation, but even just other stuff. I mean, we're going to talk about the possible pardon of Sheriff Joe Arpaio. And I mean, some of these people, including Democratic senators, I mean, Kamala Harris, like they are tweeting like their hair's on fire. Like this is the most ridiculous thing ever, and obvious signs of a madman if he were to pardon this guy. I would love to talk about that a little bit, but seriously, it seems like everything right now is just like outrage, crazy, the world is falling.
You know, the sad thing about them turning everything into an outrage moment is I'm over here literally just kind of burnt out, yawning, and like, I'm over it. I don't care anymore. If you're going to be that upset about every little thing that's happening in this country right now, I don't care to hear from you anymore. I literally don't. I mean, it's like I was talking in a group yesterday, and I was like, look, when no matter what I do, I'm some sort of an ist, or I'm some sort of a phobic, or I'm some sort of or I'm a bigot, or I'm this or that, or everything else. When you start calling me every possible name that you can call at me just to see if you can hurt my feelings, what you've managed to do is make me numb to all of it. So I really don't give a damn what I get called anymore. And that's a side effect of this that I don't think they are realizing is starting to happen, because this has worked for them for so long. But they've only done it in small doses, and they've done it to small groups, and they've been like, well, look, because when they have a valid point, when we say this, they stop. So, and that's worked for them for a long time. I mean, you can go back, because it's all over the place. There'll be somebody making a valid point. Well, you're just a racist. And I'll be, no, I'm not. You know what? I don't even defend that anymore. I'm like, look, if you think I'm a racist, that's fine. I don't care what you think, because I know what I am, and that ain't me.
Yeah, well, it's kind of like when did you stop beating your wife? I mean, everything's a catch. And so there really is no good way to defend against it, because they're going to scream it until, you know, they think that it's true and other people will listen.
Well, my defense to when did you stop beating your wife? That's easy. I never started. Just saying.
I know, but it's, you know, it's one of those things where you can go, wait, I never, what? You know, it's like, and this has been coming for a long time, and it's just exacerbated at the moment, but everything is awful.
I mean, Well, the scary thing is, to me, it's really not awful anymore. I mean, honestly, at the beginning of last week, it really was, because I was literally watching all this, and I'm like, there is no way that we can keep doing this. And I'm just, at this point, because it's been in the news cycle 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for pretty much the last 3 weeks, that if you are a white guy, even if you didn't vote for Donald Trump, if you are even giving him a shadow of a chance to be president, you are a racist, homophobic, xenophobic bigot. Fine, call me whatever you want. I don't care. I'm done. I'm over it. I'm done being offended. I'm done having my feelings hurt just because we may not agree. Because the problem that I have at this point is these people don't even deserve to be called Democrats anymore. They might as well just pick up the titles that they should have in the first place, which is Bolsheviks or whatever group it was that revamped China way back in the day, because those are the people that are at work here, and they're not hiding themselves anymore. That's the problem. They used to do this stuff from the shadows. They are out in front of everybody saying, your country sucks, we're going to make it better, whether you want us to or not. And the reason we're going to be able to make it better is because y'all are a bunch of racist. Your founders were racist. Everything that your country stands for is null and void because your founders were racist. Now, they haven't come out and said that yet, but they're starting to. There's now been calls to start removing statues of some of the founders because they were slave owners.
Well, right. And this is where I kind of went on my profanity-laden rant the other night.
Oh, yes. That was epic, by the way. I got to use my favorite cat gif. It made me happy.
But this was part of what I've actually been talking with several people about for a while now. And especially since the real talk here of these statues and monuments or dedications or whatever they may be, whatever of those that may come down, that's when it really became a little bit more clear, because here you have, in the dead of night, a few days ago, in the dead of night before school starts, the University of Texas at Austin decides to remove the monuments, in the middle of the night. And this was to avoid protests, obviously, on either side, and to avoid any sort of kind of craziness about it. But they also have, they also decided to remove some people that really have nothing to do with the Confederacy. It was a Robert E. Lee statue. There was another statue of another Confederate general, and then there was the statue of Governor Hogg, who was the first Texan-born governor of the state of Texas. And his father was in the Confederacy, but Governor Hogg was a boy whenever the war was going on. He never fought. He never had a choice in the matter. He was simply born in Texas and born into the state. And his father ended up fighting elsewhere. But that kind of thing, to me, is what gets scary. That's what gets dangerous, is here now we're saying, here is a man who had all of these other accomplishments. And then here is this other man. He had all these other accomplishments and rose to great heights throughout his lifetime. And he is now being condemned, and his statue is deemed offensive because his father served in the Confederacy. That's outrageous. We're going to start having that kind of go down everywhere. In Baltimore, they vandalized the statue of Christopher Columbus. And so that's where I kind of said, here we go. We're going to go down this road where the only thing we're going to look at is the sins of these people, and we're going to look at them through a very modern worldview and through a mindset that they could not possibly have foreseen at the time. And so we're going to judge them based on a really high moral standard. And if we start to do that, and if we truly want to go there, and we can not allow people to have any marked pasts, they can't have any blemishes on their record, and they have to have the utmost standing character, well, then you're looking at seriously getting rid of everything. And that includes, and especially if you want to talk about things that were built upon the oppression of other people or upon actual slavery, pretty much every historical, major architectural, historical, building in the world was done on the oppression of other people or on slave labor. Pretty much everything that you want to see, that anything that all of Europe, they have mad kings. They have people that slaughtered hundreds of thousands. They've got a history that is so rich, so deep, and has so many awful, terrible, barbaric things in it. And the castles are still standing, and the statues are still standing, and anything that bears their name. There are still streets named after these people. There are buildings named after them. And if you really want to go that far, then all that's got to come down to, if we're going to be that decent, moral people, which is all people are acting like this is. They're acting like this is just doing the moral, decent, right thing. And I think it's an excuse. I think it's an excuse to dare down things that either A, people do not understand, or do not wish to understand because they want to take it a step further. And yes, I do think it's already started with the rumblings about the Jefferson Memorial. I think that the ultimate goal is to invalidate our very founding and therefore be able to start over anew on their terms and the way they wish this was, which is basically a even more socialist, idealistic Europe. And so, but if you look at it from those standards, there's no place in the world that's safe. No place. And no one. Burn it all down.
Yeah, I do believe it was Reagan that said that we were basically the last bastion of freedom, and if we go, the rest of the world will follow. Now, that's a paraphrase, of course, so nobody yell at me for not quoting him properly. But it's a true statement, and that's part of the thing that has been driving me crazy, because it's like there are so many people that don't even realize what's happening right in front of our eyes. We're literally watching people put the building blocks in place to tear down America and rebuild it in their image, and nobody cares. Now, I say nobody. There are people that care, but the vast majority of the American people, they don't seem to notice or care. It's no big deal. Oh, it's just people that are offended over statues. I don't know why you guys are getting so upset over things that don't matter anymore. Those statues, those are monuments to losers. Okay, so what about now? If we're going to go there, and again, this isn't meant out of offense. This is an actual question. If we're going to go there, then why do we have all of the monuments to Native Americans in this country? Because were they not the losers of a war?
Well, yes. And I think, but that also kind of, the whole idea of this, like the winners versus the losers, I think is really kind of a silly, or not silly so much as it is a simplistic way to look at it. And to compare them to, say, Japanese warriors. Well, we don't resurrect monuments for Japanese generals. Well, let's not pretend. And you can try to say, they were an enemy just as that was, and and they occupied land. Yes and no, but let's not pretend that they didn't all start out from a common place, that the Civil War was Americans fighting Americans, brothers fighting brothers, family fighting family, neighbors fighting neighbors, and also people escaping to go to either side, which they, preferred to be on. And then there were a lot of people that had no choice. They were conscripted into service. Their lives did not depend on either the sustaining slavery or the fall of it. And there was a whole lot of money and power at the top that became a grab. And unfortunately, that also simplifies it way too much, but it really does come down to money and power and ego. And to try to act like these were not Americans fighting each other and that they did not come from some common place. They did. Like they hadn't all pledged in various forms to this country. And, many of these Confederate generals, many of these Confederate leaders, or just people that fought in the Confederacy also fought in America's wars that had just ended in the several decades before this. They fought as Americans in those wars bravely and justly. So I think it does a disservice to our past and to what we've learned and overcome, and then also to our future, to boil it down to very simple talking points and pretend like things, and to judge it through a harsher modern view and pretend like things were just really black and white when they definitely were not.
Interesting little side note. If you go back and you actually look at a lot of the historical historical accounts at the time, you can find them. The majority of the actual large plantation holders actually voted to not, or were their voices were very vocally against secession because they got a lot of their money from the North.
Yeah, there are various different things about another reason why the South did not want to secede for a very long time was because it would actually then invalidate laws that were standing in the North. So at the time of the war, there was still a fugitive slave law. If they decide to secede, then that law is null and void, and then basically you would have seen a large amount of people probably fleeing that would then never be returned. And remember that this was property that was money lost. That wasn't just, the guy that was helping me with this ran off. No, this was like actual money lost for them, and meant time lost on their plantations as well, and all sorts of other things up the line. So they wanted that fugitive slave law intact, and so that was one reason that was definitely not. But besides the history lesson, the point is that people are trying to make this too, I guess, just too black and white, and they want people to be either all on one side or all on the other. And I'm getting it from the other side too, from some of these staunch, Confederate supporters, Southerners, whatever, where they're wanting, mad at me for saying that I support the statues being moved to a memorial, to a museum, maybe to a designated area where they can kind of all be in a memorial garden or something. That's been suggested in several places and seems to go over very well. So I think that for me, I'm hearing it from them too, saying, oh, so now you say that you value history and you want to protect it, but you really don't care either, and you just want them to move it because you blah, 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 blah. And I had someone call me peak woman and emotional on Twitter, which I really, really appreciated. But I said, he basically said, oh, she goes through all these things and then illogically says, but I wouldn't keep the statues. And I was like, that's actually not what I'm saying at all. What I'm saying is we need to go about it the right way, which, by the way, Charlottesville did do it the right way. They put it to a vote. They let their people decide what would happen with that statue. And a bunch of outsiders came in and had that disruption. But I do think we should go about it in a way that is not mandated by the federal government and to just say that you have to move them.
Yeah, no, and I agree. I mean, look, if the local cities and states want to do something about their statues or, move them to parks or whatever, I don't care. What I don't want to see happen is a bunch of freaking vigilantes just go start tearing them down because it makes them feel good for 30 seconds. But that's not even the worst of this, because this has reached peak stupidity. I mean, and there's a couple of different instances that I want to touch on real quick, and then I need to see. I guess we're good because we started late. We got about 15 minutes. All right, so interesting things have happened because, first the statues were offensive. Now apparently names are offensive, and there's a couple of different ones. I'm going to touch on probably one that everybody hasn't heard about first, because the ESPN one's been all over the place. So in California, there's a school, college with the mascot of a Trojan. The name of that horse that carries around the Trojan is Traveler, which also happened to be the name of, I believe it was Lee's horse. Except Lee's the Confederate general, just in case it wasn't Lee, because I don't have it in front of me, his horse's name was spelled just like Traveler should be spelled, with 2 L's. This particular horse named Traveler is spelled with 1 L. And it may have been a decision way back when they decided to name the horse that to try to differentiate the two, because, I mean, come on, it's California, for God's sake. But so an interesting thing happened within the last 48 hours. Someone who was part of the student council over there decided that she wanted to bring up a petition to have the horse renamed because it was the same name as a Confederate general's horse. Now, here's the kicker. This person who's offended about the name of this Confederate general's horse, her last name's Jackson.
Well, that is really funny. And I think that's where we get where I say that these things start to get out of control and just, insane, is that if you want to start being fearful of an Asian guy who's calling a Virginia game named Robert Lee, and you think that somehow is going to be a problem, then holy crap, we are so screwed, because there are so many names that could be tied to something bad, just by mere chance of having that name. That where do you stop with this? Do all these people have to change their names now? I mean, is that what it'll take to not be offensive?
Yeah, I mean, I honestly don't have an answer to that, because sadly, it's even starting to take effect here. The Oklahoma City school superintendent Aurora Laura has decided that she's going to put it to a vote to see if certain schools within the district should be renamed, because they are named with people with last names like Lee and Jackson,
yep,
and yada
yep,
yada. Well,
it's going to happen here too. We have a John H. Reagan High School, who is one of the monuments that was moved in at the University of Texas overnight a few days ago, and that one is really kind of annoying. He was the postmaster of the Confederacy. Just think about that for a second. He's the postmaster of the Confederacy. And the main thing the Union was pissed at him about was because a lot of the people from the U.S. Postal Service came with him. He took all the good guys. Anyways, he ends up, after the war, he goes to D.C. as a United States elected senator. He helps to remap all of the postal routes and to make things more efficient. I mean, things happened before and after his career as the Confederate postmaster. There's so much more to these men. And that's what I think also is really kind of frustrating about all of it. We don't know every single one of their hearts. We don't have the privilege of asking them, being 150 years dead and all. We don't have the privilege of asking them, what is this about for you, and why are you doing this? Now, there are writings and there are some diaries. There are some things to point to a few things, but the assumption that every single one of them was an African-American slave-owning racist is really, I feel like it's really kind of intellectually immature to just go ahead and assume all of that. And also, if that is what you think about all of them, then that is somehow different than how anybody else thought at that time, basically. Let's not pretend like the North was full of open-hearted abolitionists. It was not. That was not the norm. This country was racist. And they weren't just racist against African Americans. They were classist. They were sexist. I mean, this is the way of the world at the time, and not just in the United States of America. So
everywhere.
Quit trying to pretend like it's something entirely unique in their evilness, that the Confederacy was entirely unique in their evilness and unlike anything that the human world has ever seen, and so therefore no name shall be spoken and all must be condemned. It's just very stunted to have that view of it.
I just realized what they're doing. They're taking the entire Civil War and they're turning it into the Harry Potter villain.
I mean, pretty much. That's why I said, like, those whose names must not be said. It's and like I said, and I have said many a times, I think that it should be up to the areas in which these places are. I think that some small town in Georgia that everybody votes overwhelmingly that they're fine with where it is. Cool. If another town in Alabama says, nope, let's relocate everything to this museum, cool. And actually, I kind of think some of that is the better way to go, because I think it will, because I think tensions are so high and I think emotions are just going to continue to increase, that that will actually be a protective measure for a lot of these statues and monuments and other sorts of honorings, because I think, or memorials, I think that you're going to see an increase in vandalism and destruction. And so maybe that's the best way to actually preserve this this memorial to that part of our history, is to go ahead and move them to a safer place where they can still be visited and viewed, fairly regularly.
There's another interesting thing that nobody seems to talk about. And it's our neighbors to the south. Because, everybody, like you said, everybody acts like America was the only country of the time that partook in slavery. The Mexican government was more heavily involved in slavery than we were. They are still highly segregated when it comes to slavery. As a matter of fact, as far as their rules and laws are concerned, if you are found to have any slave lineage, you were permanently and forever considered a second-class citizen. But nobody talks about that.
Oh, there is stuff like that everywhere. And there were things going on long past the Civil War in lots of areas of the world. There are things still going on right now that are so egregious when it comes to how people judge and grade on race and class. That's my only thing about this. Is it probably the ugliest part of our history? I think that it's almost undoubtable. But was it? And I think it's something that we have tried to move past. We've continued to atone for that. But I don't think that ignoring it, pushing it away, or rewriting the history of it and teaching it in a different manner, as if North good, South bad, or on the flip side, South good, North bad, and putting basically prescribing either of these people's things about them that we cannot possibly know and have no way of being able to affirm are true, I think is a real disservice to our future generations and to our history and to all of the people that have literally shed blood in order to get us where we are right now.
All right, well, on that note, we're past the bottom of the hour. We're going to have to take a really quick break. We're going to keep the conversation going when we come back. And remember, everything is awful if you're a leftist. This is Jen and Rick, live, KLRNradio.com. Back in a minute.
If you're 85 or younger, would you like peace of mind and comfort for your family? We're Final Expense Direct with an urgent message for you. The average funeral today costs over $8,000, but the most you'll get from government benefits is $255. How will your family pay the difference? We can help. Our senior plans start as low as just $1 a day and pay up to $30,000 for a funeral and other final expenses. Peace of mind is easy. There's no medical exam. You'll have lifetime coverage, and your plan can't be canceled as long as you pay your premiums. Call now for free information about our senior plans. Answer a few simple questions and receive approval right on the phone. Plus, call right now and we'll give you a discount prescription card for free. Call 800-553-8687. That's 800-553-8687. Again, 800-553-8687.
Here's George Foreman with InventHelp.
Hi, I'm George Foreman. Do you have an idea for a new product or invention? People ask me all the time, George, how do I get my idea in front of companies? How do I get a patent? What do I do next? Do you have the same questions? I'll tell you like I'll tell them all. Call my friends at InventHelp.
Call InventHelp today for free information. InventHelp has been helping inventors for more than 30 years and has sales offices nationwide. InventHelp can submit your invention to companies who are interested in receiving new ideas. If you have an idea and want to try to patent it and submit it to companies, you should call InventHelp today for free information.
Listen, I can't guarantee a company will be interested in your idea, but I believe every inventor deserves the opportunity to step into the ring and take their best shot. Put InventHelp in your corner.
Get your free inventor's information. Call 1-800-353-6490. That's 1-800-353-6490. Again, 1-800-353-6490.
Everyone loves liberty. Our rights come from God, not the government. So why are you letting other people tell you what's best for your health care? Exercise your freedom with Liberty Health Share. Liberty Health Share is a community of people who voluntarily share one another's medical costs. Liberty Health Share is founded on the idea that most people truly want to help one another. Healthcare sharing allows members to do just that as a true community that supports one another in times of need. Liberty believes people should make decisions for themselves and their families. Members are able to take back the freedom to make their own decisions about their health care. Freedom from guilt or doubt about how your money is used. You have the freedom to direct your health care, not to be dictated to by bureaucrats. Stop letting others tell you what to do and join a community of like-minded people. Exercise your freedom. Join Liberty HealthShare and take back the control of your healthcare while helping those around you. Call Liberty at 855-58-LIBERTY. Again, that's 855-58-LIBERTY for more information, or you can check them out at libertyhealthshare.org. Again, that's libertyhealthshare.org. All right, folks, welcome back. This is JandR. We're live on KLRNradio.com, where we do this thing for now every Tuesday and Thursday. We have an announcement coming soon, but I don't want to give it out until we actually get it, till we get it fully confirmed. But let's just say that we have some folks that I've considered family for a long time that are looking at coming home, so we may actually be giving up one of our nights to make sure they have a smooth transition back, which is kind of making me sad, but at the same time, it's for a really good cause, or really good if it happens. Speaking of programming notes and changes, due to the fact that we had a late start, which for once wasn't my fault. No, I'm not saying it. But because of that, because of the reset times and everything that has to go on behind the scenes when we change over, there's just no way that I'm going to be able to do a live broadcast for America Off the Rails tonight. I will, however, probably try to make it up to you guys maybe early Saturday morning, because I've had a couple of that have been knocked out this week due to weather, and now I'm not going to be able to do the one tonight either, because I'm literally getting mail from people that are like, dude, you're like, you haven't done a hot take poll in like a week, you've barely been on the air, what's going on? I'm like, dude, Mother Nature hates me. We're getting the weather that we should have gotten in June and August. I can't help it. I was like, right now, I'm dealing with internet fluctuations I haven't had to deal with since we upped to speed months ago, because of everything being weird, because the weather's gone nuts and it's causing weird things everywhere. All right, so I think that might actually be Twitter, so let me kill that. Yep, it was. Twitter has become a bandwidth whore, just like Facebook. I swear to God. It's like you open it up, and all of a sudden it just goes, I need more of your bandwidth. And I'm like, dude.
I need everything.
Everything, now, all at once. Okay, so anyway, we've been talking about the craziness, the outlandishness of the left. Now, I want to talk about one more thing, and then I'm going to turn the mic over to Jen for a bit. I actually had a fairly cordial conversation with somebody on Twitter the other day, but at some point the conversation just stopped, and I don't know if it's because I hit a nerve or if he never came back to it either. But it was basically somebody who would, put out the little thing about the race card and how, anytime the whitey tells you that we're playing the race card, remind them that we're playing with their deck and yada, 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 blah, blah, blah. So we started having a pretty intense, kind of drawn-out conversation about it, and basically by the end of it, I was like, okay, so look, I get it. Slavery was bad, but at the time, America wasn't the only participant in slavery, and we actually did something to try to fix it. Slavery wasn't a color of your skin issue, it was a moral issue, because there were Chinese slaves, there was Irish slaves, there were pretty much anybody that wasn't an Anglican. The good chance at some point somebody in your family, if you were here early enough, was probably a slave, because that's just how the country was back then. It sucks. It's a hard truth. It's terrible, but it is what it is. But by the end of this conversation, and he put out a tweet that I didn't understand at first, and I thought maybe it was because I hadn't had enough coffee, and then eventually it kind of sunk in what he was trying to say. But so he tweeted it out, and then I said, look, man, can you maybe send that back again without the metaphor? Because I don't know if my caffeine's not working or if I'm just not getting it. So he tweeted out, when we were talking about the transition from being slaves to free people, how is it fair that when you go from being the shoes that everyone else has ran in for the last 400 years to now being forced to compete with the people that you've been the shoes that they've ran in for the last 400 years? And when I finally realized what he was trying to say, I have to say I was taken aback, because that statement makes absolutely no sense. Because let me put it to you from my perspective. So you're telling me that as far as you're concerned, your ancestors built this country, but they built it as slaves to the white man. But what you're telling me is, once they were no longer slaves to the white man, they couldn't take the things that they had learned and continue to do the very things that they were doing for other people, for themselves? Because that's exactly what it sounds like you're saying. And the problem with that is, there are plenty of other people that came into this country as slaves that didn't have that problem transitioning. That's my biggest problem. These people are acting like the only slaves that were ever in this country were African American. That is not true. There were slaves of every kind in this country. Pretty much every race you can think of that didn't come from England, they probably were slaves at one point or another in this country, or were subjugated to a point. And that's the point that I'm trying to get across to all these people that are still so mad to this day. You guys are acting like you guys were the only ones that went through this. You're still the only ones that seem to have a huge problem with it. Why is that?
Yeah, I think, I think there's a lot of reasons for it. And unfortunately, I think a lot of it comes out of the civil rights movement and sort of the push. I think a lot of the things pushed were well-intentioned, but ultimately they were enacted very poorly. They were not planned well, and it ended up having negative effects on the people that they were supposed to be helping. And so I think it is a more recent thing as opposed to coming straight out of the Civil War. And and certainly those people had it much, much, much harder to try to find any sort of fairness or equality at the time directly after the Civil War. And a lot of people moved west because of it. But I do think that the recent times where it's people are kind of hanging their hats on it is because of how ugly things got during the civil rights movement, and then the policies that were supposed to help that came after that, really ended up hurting the very people that they were intending to, lift up. And so, and I think that's because I think, like I said, I still think it was well-intentioned. I think there was a lot of rush to get something done. I think there was a lot of poor planning, poor execution. And it just ended up that some of these programs that maybe could have really made a difference ended up being kind of, halfway done. And we moved kids around like crazy, and we forced kids in here and forced kids out of there. And it was just one big kind of cluster beep. And I think we're still seeing the effects of that today, because those people that went through that then are mothers, fathers, grandmothers, grandfathers now. And their children are, being taught a specific way also by the system that is supposed to help them, is telling them that they are essentially screwed. And that's all there is to it. So I think that it's just they're getting it from a lot of different angles. And I think it's very hard as someone growing up in that community to see your way out of it. But there's not an excuse for people knowing that they are able-bodied, that they have self-responsibility. I'm just saying that I think that there's kind of that culture that has created, and the political climate it created is very negative, and you can see how people would be easily caught up in that.
Sorry, I forgot I was muted there for a second. I actually have a point of a bit of a correction, at least from my perspective. I don't necessarily blame the civil rights movement. I do, however, blame the bastardization of the civil rights movement by folks like Jesse Jackson and Al Sharpton. Because
absolutely. Well, and like I said, I don't think that the civil rights movement itself was the problem. I think it was things that came out of it that were intended to be a part of it and to help, that there was just a lot of stuff that ended up maybe spreading itself too thin, overreaching, things like that. But the people that decided to monetize it are absolutely despicable, and I think absolutely part of the problem, like you said.
Well, yeah, because it goes to the heart of what we have going on today, and I have to give a shout out. I think it was a friend of ours in a group that said this, and I think it was Brick. If I gave credit to the wrong person, I'm sorry, but they pointed out that the election of Barack Obama should have put all of this to bed. Because that has been the thing all along, is, that black people can't get as far as white people in America. They shouldn't have that argument anymore. because they literally just had according to them, the second black president, because everybody seems to forget that they used to call Bill Clinton the first black president. I'm not sure what that was about, but they sure did. He was like,
I know.
He was like an honorary member of the NAACP. They started calling him the first black president, so I guess it was actually... Maybe that's it, because Bill Clinton always seemed like he was white on the outside, black on the inside. Obama kind of seems like the reverse. I'm just saying. But anyway, so so we should have been past all this. This should have been a unifying moment for the entire country, and it wasn't. And it wasn't because of morons like Jesse Jackson and Al Sharpton, because they have found a way to carve themselves out a niche where they have ever-increasing, ever-flowing amounts of income off of racial hatred and disparity. So that is part of what has been driving me crazy about watching all of this right now going on in this country. The election of Barack Obama should have made all of this null, void, and moot, because we literally had for 8 years an African-American president. Even if it never happens again, history was made and people had seen that a black man can hold the highest office in this country and nothing can stop him as long as he gets there the way that he should be gotten there, that he should get there. He got there because he got out, he hustled, he found the votes, he got it done. Whatever else you want to say about the stuff the Democrats do behind the scenes, you know what? That's something that we need to deal with at another time, because he still was the one at the end of the day, on 2 cycles, he came away president of the United States. These people should not even be, I'm sorry, I don't see it. I flash back to Glenn Beck in the middle of the 2012 cycle, when he was sitting down talking to his, I think one of his children, who's actually old enough to at least understand what he was trying to talk about, because they kept asking him why he was always talking about Romney so much. And it's because Mitt Romney and Glenn Beck are both Mormons. And he said, son, you don't understand. This is a chance for someone like us to be in the White House. This is an historic moment. This is something that we really didn't ever think was going to happen, and now he's the guy that's running for the White House. Even if he doesn't get there, a Mormon took a shot at the White House. So why is it that another marginalized, disparaged group, because everybody makes fun of Mormons, everybody makes fun of Mormons. Just ask somebody. I mean, I'm not even going to say it because it's just terrible. And I'm not going to say whether they deserve it or they don't deserve it, because, everybody has their own ideas on faith. I have friends that are Mormons. But at the same time, they didn't melt down and riot in the streets when Mitt Romney didn't get elected. They didn't go start breaking things and burning buildings down when Romney didn't get elected. And these people that are rioting right now, they're not even rioting over the fact that they weren't rioting over the fact that a black man didn't get elected, because the black man had already gotten elected. They got mad because a woman didn't win and decided they were going to start tearing things up, because as far as they were concerned, it should have been Democratic paradise for forever after 8 years of Obama. But it can't be, because the people that are pulling the strings on the Democratic Party always have to have people in victimhood mode. So that's a lot of what I think happened. I think when they saw that if they didn't do something to keep people on edge when it came to racial discrimination, folks like Al Sharpton and Jesse Jackson saw their meal ticket drying up when Barack Obama got elected president. And I think a lot of them found ways behind the scenes to incite things, to stir them up, and to get us to the point where we are today. And I personally blame every single one of them, and I guarantee you that if it was at all possible, the old saying of people spinning in their grave, Martin Luther King would be spinning like a fan blade right now if that was an actual possibility, because he's literally seen his entire movement and something that he died for be bastardized to the point where people are killing each other in the streets again.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really sad, and I've always thought that I remember being fairly young, seeing Jesse Jackson at one point on TV, and I heard that, they said Reverend Jesse Jackson, and I was like, well, Reverend of what? To my parents, because it didn't seem like the message he was spreading. was very faithful. And it was just really confusing to me. And there were people just like, rah, 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 all around him. And I started realizing then, and then as, obviously as I grew up, even further. And I wasn't a woke 7-year-old, y'all. That don't get the wrong idea. I was like 12. And even then it was like a fleeting moment. But I do remember I continuously saw him, and it always seemed with a crowd around him, almost mob-like, and that he was always kind of yelling at the TV, and it was always about how they're disenfranchised and, people don't care about this black kid or that black kid, and this, black America deserves this and deserves that. And it just became very clear by the time I was in late high school and early college that this was a money machine for him. And I got very disgusted with that idea. And I remember having a discussion in a class in high school, and somehow him and Al Sharpton were brought up. And I just said, it just seems really distasteful to me. And they seem... I don't know. I just think that I would be insulted if people running around claiming everything is racist and pointing all these fingers and demanding things from other people and just exclaiming in that way on my behalf. I think that I would be insulted. And, I got some backlash for it. And then I also got some people that said, no, sure, absolutely. And I'm like, but they're doing it to get on TV. They're doing it to make money. They're doing it to, I'm like, it seems like you can just throw reverend in front of whatever, and then all of a sudden you're legitimized as a speaker of the black community. And I just think that's pathetic. And thankfully they've kind of fallen by the wayside.
I don't know. Sorry, I got a little emotional on that. That's a little talking point of mine, so I'm trying to get myself composed again. I don't honestly know where we go from here. The one thing that I do know, and again, I think I have to give props to Brick for this, because I read it in something that you guys just put out over there on Misfits. We can't, as much as we want to, and as much as I even feel myself sometimes giving in to the anger, we can't sink to this group's level that has suddenly decided that they're going to do whatever they can to destroy the country. Because whether it's in this new iteration or whatever the case may be, this driving thought of theirs has been around for a lot longer than this country. And if we sink to their level and we start responding to violence with violence, then at the end of the day, if we become the group to beat the group, they still win. That's part of what is honestly really driving me crazy right now, because everybody's talking about things like revolution and civil war and all these things that they think have to happen to clear the playing field. And I don't see any way that we get past this, especially by doing that. Because I don't think that we could survive another civil war. I don't think there would be enough of a drive left to put the country back together again, because we will have forgotten part of what we are and who we are. And that's what drives me crazy about these people that, and not necessarily the fringe groups themselves, because most of them at one point or another came in from outside of the country, or their ancestors did, and they've basically been trained up from the beginning that America is the worst place ever, that it is terrible, it's horrible, we're not nearly as good as we think we are, and I understand that. But these people that are Americans, that were born here, that are buying into this nonsense, that this country is a terrible, horrible place. Look, we could all pick one little dark spot in the American history, in the annals of American history. We could take it, we could run with it, we could pick the entire country apart based upon it. But the simple fact of the matter is, if you keep looking at just one dark spot in America's history, you miss everything else that we've accomplished around that history, and sometimes even because of that history. It's no different than your own life. If you had the ability to go in and remove some of your memories, or remove things that have upset you, or remove things that have offended you, you would change exactly who you are, because we learn from our experiences. The history of America is a collection of our experiences, and if we start removing them, then future generations are not going to understand the things that we've gone through, that our ancestors have gone through. Our descendants won't know about them because we won't talk about them. Those that don't understand history are doomed to repeat it, and that is part of what these people are trying to do. They're not only trying to whitewash history, yes, irony intended there, but they're also trying to remove it so that at some point they can set us upon one another again. And then hopefully somebody, and I still don't even know who it is ultimately behind the scenes pulling the strings, because I know it's not Antifa because they're not smart enough. And I know it's not Soros because even though he's got the money, I don't think he's the guy pulling the strings. But somebody behind all of this has got the idea in their head that if they put us against each other, when we go to civil war, they're going to be able to swoop in, pick up the pieces, and rebuild the country in their image. So if we give in to the hate, and if we give in to the violence, they win, no matter what, because they'll be the ones waiting in the wings to pick it up and look like the hero.
Yeah, and I think, though, you said earlier, I don't know what we do from here. I think just like the conversations about the Confederate memorials and statues needs to happen in the community and at home. I think that that's what we do. I had someone suggest to me on my TL the other day that if we had a good, strong leader, if we had a moral leader, if we had someone who was, really a role model and people could look up to, then that person could really do a lot for us right now. But we don't. We have terrible, horrible, no good, very bad Donald Trump. And so, and I disagree. I don't think it matters who's leading the country in times like this. And when, emotions and anger are running so high. And I get it because I think, just because I think the way in which a lot of things are going down doesn't mean that I think some of the anger isn't justified. I think that there have been things that can be justified, that you can have justifiable anger on many sides of so many issues happening right now. But I don't think that some president that was somehow perfect in whoever's eyes, because remember, no president is ever going to be 100% the first choice president for every single person in this country. So saying, if it was a strong leader, if it was someone who really was able to unite this country and bring them together, well, I just don't think that's true. That's your viewpoint if it was someone that you preferred. Right now, there are people that prefer Trump and the way in which he's acting, and they think he's doing that. They think he's doing that for them. He's inspiring them. He's unifying them. But that's not how you feel. So you have to look at it that way. There's never going to be a president that's going to be like that, which is why I say we don't look to them for our moral compass here. We don't look to the government for that. We look to our communities. We look to our churches. We look to our parents. We look to our children. And we teach each other. We help each other. And we nurture and foster each other. That's how we have these tough conversations and start to heal from them, not by passing some ridiculous legislation and having some presidential speech. None of that, no policy can fix this, and no leader can talk his way out of this. It has to start at home. And it has to start in our hearts. And the only way to do that is to actually have conversations with real people and remember that they are entitled to opinions and are entitled to their emotions as well, and then trying to find common ground from there.
See, there's a reason I asked that question the way that I asked it, because I've said a lot of the same things that you've just said on the show that I usually do by myself, and I wanted him to hear somebody else say it. And I knew you would say something very similar to the same things that I've said, because that's honestly the answer. At this point, we can't fight this on a big government scale. And that's part of the problem, because even we as conservatives, we've lost the way that conservatism works. We keep thinking of it as a top-down thing. It's not a top-down thing. It's not. It's never been. If you want small government, the way that you impact and affect small government is you make sure that those around you understand what it means to have a small government, so that when they get older, they want the same things. You make sure that the government near you, the one in your town, understands what it means to be small government and have liberty first. You understand what it means at the state level, and make sure that other people understand what it means at the state level to have small government and liberty first. because it's all about your circle of influence, and we have lost that. And so I think some of the reason we've lost it is because we have so many of these political superstars now that can reach millions of people in 30 seconds, and we think we need them to impact changes. And truth be told, we don't. But we think we do. I mean, that's like the things that you and I do. I'll probably never have the reach of Sean Hannity or even any of the other folks that do this on a regular basis for places like Fox News or anything else. I'm not saying that I have a terrible reach, but I don't have the ability to impact millions of people in 30 seconds, which honestly I prefer. I don't want to be a mega superstar when it comes to doing this. I just want to be able to get enough people tuned in to make them understand that we can't do this alone, and we can't do it just by sitting behind a microphone. There are some of us that do things the way that I do them, which is trying to teach people and talk to them. But what I'm hoping happens is people hear the things that we talk about, they understand them, and they implement them so that we can start making changes in our own areas first. And that's the only way that we're ever going to be able to beat this mess. We can't do it from the top down because the top has already turned their backs on us. I don't care who is president. Congress has already proven to us that they don't give a damn what we want. They have lied to us for 7 years and told us, give us everything that we need to get it done, and we will make sure that Obamacare goes away. And then once everything started shifting, the message started changing. We gave them the Senate, and suddenly it turned into, well, we'll repeal it, but then we probably need to replace it with something because, it's just not going to be good to make it go away. Well, that's not what you said 6 months ago. But okay, fine, cool, whatever. And now they haven't even managed to do that because they don't want to. And that's the problem. If we keep looking to DC to fix this mess, we're never going to get it fixed because they don't want to fix it. Because if they fix it, we don't need them. And they can't have us not need them because...
Yeah, and the cash cow dries up.
Exactly. But the only way to fix it is for us to realize that we have to be the ones to fix it. We can't be Joe and Susie Smith trying to keep up with the Joneses next door, worrying about, well, I've already worked 42 hours this week, and all I really want to do is sit in front of the TV, pop in a TV dinner, and watch some Law and Order. If that's what you want to do, great, but don't complain to me about how the rest of the country sucks when all you're doing is plop down on your couch in front of a television. You have to find a way to get engaged. You have to find a way to get involved. I don't care if it's putting a blog together so that people can read your ideas. I don't care if you're good at making memes. Fine, put out memes. If you're good at organizing people so you can get door-to-door movements or whatever going, then fine, please do that. Do something. Don't just sit back and complain anymore. We can't do that anymore because these people are already galvanized. They've already mobilized. They're taking the fight to the streets. And as much as every part of me, because of my background, wants to join them in the streets and shoot them in the nuts, just happened the other night with riot bullets, we can't be the ones to do that or we lose. We have to fight them on our terms, not theirs, or we lose. But we can't because too many of us don't want to engage or don't care enough to engage. And that's the other thing that has me completely frustrated right now. Because everybody complains about how bad everything is, but nobody wants to do anything to fix how bad it is. They want everybody else to do it for them. Meh.
Yes. Yes. Everything you just said, yes.
Well, it's good that you agree with me because believe it or not, we're actually overtime. So why don't you remind folks where it is that they can hang out with you when you are not on the radio hanging out with me?
Yes, come find me on Twitter at jhomestead, JR Homestead on Facebook, and as always on misfitspolitics.com, and follow the Misfits at MisfitsPolitics on Twitter for fun stuff. Tomorrow night's Misfit Mischief, so get ready.
And if you are not following along with Mischief, I never can say you guys' name. That's why I never do it. If you are not following along with MisfitsPolitics.com, you are missing out. They have not only do they have a great stable of regular contributors, they have some great guest contributors. I encourage you to check them out. You need to do it. Go do it now. And yeah.
And if you're inclined to write, we're always taking submissions. So you can always message us on Twitter or email us at misfitspolitics@gmail.com. We love to have different perspectives and have different people of all different types writing in for us.
If I could find 5 seconds, I'd be writing for you. I'd be writing for you, the Resurgent, and there's another one that I can't think of right now. Anyway, I have like all these assignments on my desk that I'm supposed to be getting done, and I haven't been able to get any of them.
But I think a lot of people get scared of it and they think that they can't. But like, if you have an idea and you want to articulate it and you put it down, it doesn't have to be 5 pages. It doesn't have to be, with a thesaurus full of words. I think that a lot of people underestimate their ability to put their thoughts down on paper and have it published someplace like Misfits, where we really are very accepting of a lot of different things. We will help edit it for you, and we will, get you seen by at least a couple hundred people, hopefully a couple thousand. So
whatever. They want 20 pages front and back, single spaced, at least 5 50-cent words, and a catchy title. No, I'm just playing. They really are pretty lax over there, and they really do work.
I make up half the titles, and I laugh at myself later. What was that about? I was so dramatic.
Speaking of dramatic, the title that you put on the submission for Brick was pretty funny.
I know. Let there be sunlight.
It makes sense, though, because, that is true. These people have done a bang-up job of hiding in the shadows, and some of them are still trying to hide in the shadows, but a lot of them are getting a lot more emboldened. All right, so I'm still talking, even though I said we were done. So we're out, folks. We'll be back at least this next Tuesday, but there may be some changes coming soon.